Bom dia, bem-vindos. Vamos
Good
começar.
morning. Welcome. Let's start our panel on defossilization and the contribution of biogas. We have AFACER, APLA, Itaipu Binacional, and Parque do Itaipu. So a brief presentation. Today, developing countries have only 10% of global wealth. However, they are responsible for 40% of the production of green energy. This panel will try and approach the green transition in the global south. We are going to be talking about defossilization as a possible alternative. If you allow me, I would like to present our panelists, Isabela Bolonhesi, Head for the Environment, Sustainability and ESG. Eduardo de Miranda, Director of Business and Undertakings at Parque de Itaipu. Flávio Castellari, Director General at APLA. And Benjamin Ferreira Neto, Vice President of Anfacer Board, the ceramic tile company. How are we going to proceed? We are going to have between 5 and 7 minutes each to discuss the projects. Then we're going to have a Q&A session. And if you want, of course, you can ask questions. So first of all, I would like to hear Eduardo de Miranda. You have the floor. Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning, everyone. I believe you can hear me now. So I'm very happy to be here. On behalf of Parque Tecnológico Itaipu and Biogas, I'll be talking about the production of biogas, biomethane, and some experiences that we have at Itaipu Binacional. We are located in Foz do Iguaçu, state of Paraná. Itaipu is one of the largest industries of renewable energy in Brazil, and we invest in green energy production, sustainability, and environmental preservation. And this will be to show our structure. As I mentioned, the world's largest generator of renewable energy. We invest in the research of new sources of energy. We have the International Center for Biogas, founded 10 years ago, where we develop biogas research and related products. We also have the first biogas laboratory in Latin America, which is inside our park, where we have trials and tests for our ecosystem, but also for external ecosystems. As for the opportunities with biogas, we have some sources of energy, such as industrial waste, landfill, from urban areas, agribusiness waste. We can use this to generate electricity, advanced fuels, and other types of biogas. And the case I have today to present it to you is the biomethane production. We have an internal unit where we use waste from landfill and food waste from restaurants, but also organic waste. And With this waste, we produce biogas through biogas. So we refine the biomethane and we supply our fleet. We have about 44 light vehicles. As of 97, we use biomethane as a fuel to our fleet. We have been able to reuse more than 1,000 tons of waste, producing uh, 17 million tons of biomethane. And these fleets have also ran more than 16,000 kilometers in our plant where we constructed the biomethane unit in 2017. So we used all the waste produced in the area to produce the biogas and the biomethane. And on the top of biogas, we have another research line to produce the BioQAV, which is a partnership with C Biogas. We've been developing this project, which is very important for reducing carbon dioxide emission in the aviation industry. So we are now invested in this research that will start with the use of biogas that will generate an oil. We're going to add green hydrogen and produce this biocrude for aviation. The research is in progress. We are about to validate the technologies, the concept, and at a later stage, we will be able to produce in a larger scale. So this is a pilot project. Within a circular economy, Itaipu invests to improve the quality of water. So the biogas project dates back from 15 years ago, and it is in line with the idea of a circular economy that might drive income and development for the local population. In the state of Paraná, there is a lot of livestock production which affects the quality of the water in our reservoirs. So we saw it was possible to invest and have a circular economy for farmers and producers, and on the top of that, having an environmental system that would reduce the pollution and produce biogas and biomethane. So, Biogas, Itaipu Park, and Itaipu Binational are partnering to enable the green transition in Brazil and also to create new sources of income, support for a low carbon economy, and this is our way to help the green transition in Brazil, fostering new technologies, new sources of energy, and also the energy transition as a whole. So this is our case and some of what we've been doing at our technological park in partnership with Itaipu Park and Cibiogas. Thank you very much. Now I will give the floor to Benjamin. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and I'm very grateful. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the opportunity to share the research being carried out in the ceramic tile industry in Brazil. Thank you to Apex as well for having chosen our case. And we have the production of alcohol and tile in this sector in this region. I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to talk about this topic. I'm honored to present a broad project of the ceramic industry in Brazil. First of all, I would like to talk about ceramic material that use raw material that is very important for the decoration industry, for the construction unit. The ceramic industry is more and more sustainable, where is ramping up. Brazil is the third producer and consumer of ceramic tiles. We are ranked 10 in consumer of natural energy, and this is very important for the energy transition. We have 60 plants in the national territory and 37 brands. In the next slide, I will show you ceramic coating. As to the production process, we have two different types. The dry coating, it is 71% of the production, and also the wet coating, which accounts for 29% of the production. During the production process, 95% of the water is reused. In 2021, we produced about 1 billion square meters, so our sector consumed 2.2 billion kilowatt hour of electrical energy, 1.4 billion tons of renewable energy, emitting 1.8 tons of equivalent CO2. According to a study carried out by the Ceramic Center of Brazil, the emissions in Brazil are lower as compared to other countries with the same sector, such as Spain and Italy. Before presenting the biomethane case, I would like to talk about the ceramic production and the state of São Paulo. We have the production of São Paulo with 23 industries, and it is the greatest producer in the area. In here, you can see the volume of the São Paulo state production per square meter. The production includes the dry coating and the wet coating, which represents 18%. Here you can see the production in 2021, including the electric consumption of 1.12 billion kilowatt hour, emitting almost 800 million natural gas consumption. The technical cooperation agreement was entered into 2023 in the city of Santa Gertrudes. This is a project aimed at producing biogas, which is cleaner, and we can produce with the same quality. In order to do so, we are going to have a biomethane unit that will be connected to existing pipelines. Today, the Brazilian ceramic industry is sourced with natural gas, emitting 3.6 tons of equivalent carbon dioxide. When we reach 50% of biomethane and 50% of natural gas, this figure should drop to 2.21, reducing by 32%. That's our total estimate. In comparison to natural gas, São Paulo emits 2.65 equivalent carbon dioxide, and after the project, we intended to reduce it to 1.82. The target of our sector is to replace 50% of natural gas consumption with biomethane by 2030, using 1 million cubic meters per day, which will entail the reduction of 30% in carbon dioxide emissions. When it comes to sustainability, we have initiatives such as the use of hydrogen. And it's important to say that in year 2000, we launched the energy transition and we replaced the liquefied natural gas with natural gas. So we've reduced our emissions 44% less as compared to coal. We'll also advance in the project of replacement of engines of our fleet, and we will also change the systems from gas to diesel. And the transportation distances range 30 kilometers maximum. Altogether, these initiatives will most certainly entail changes that will have a positive effect in the reduction of carbon dioxide emissions, bringing about social, economic, and environmental development for Brazil and for the world. Thank you. And to conclude, I'd like to thank the Brazilian government on behalf of Apex, our partners Senai, APA, Cidixeran, Geotech, for the opportunity to showcase our sustainability initiatives.
Obrigada.
O meu está funcionando? Todo mundo me ouve? Obrigada, Anderson. Vou deixar com
Thank you.
você.
Can you hear me? Well, now I will have just a few minutes to talk about the technical aspects. I represent Geo, Biogas and Carbon, which is a company that makes this bridge between the energy sector and the tile sector, ceramic tile sector. I think it's working now. We're good to go. So let me explain the biogas and biomethane production, and I'll go back to something Flávio said. The technique to produce it is quite consolidated. It's an old technique, but being able to scale it up in order to have this as an industrial process that really feeds all of the industry, for instance, for the ceramic tile industry, is precisely where we might have limitations, which is how Geo comes up to try and provide technology and references in the sector to help. Geo is a young company from 2018. It used to be called Geo Energetica. Now our name is Geo Biogas and Carbon. I will explain why later. In 2012, we had our first plant for industrial scale biogas production. And from then on, we were concerned about technological innovations that would allow us to produce biofuel to replace fossil fuel, as is the title of this panel. So the purpose is to remove fossil fuels from the Brazilian industry. To do that, we have four main support areas: engineering, which works on the end-to-end engineering projects, aligning the conceptual project all the way to execution. We also have GeoConnect, which is the other area doing the interface and real-time monitoring. Very important to have data to be able to make decisions and define exactly what needs to be changed. Then we have the lab, which is a reference at the international level in terms of research and development. We look at biogas and all its byproducts. And we have Geogas, which does the marketing of and logistics of these products. So we want to have responsible management of the carbon cycle. And why a responsible management? What does that mean? It's what we're showing here. So we receive waste, mostly agro-industrial waste. They get to our plants, which is the purple part of the slide. When they arrive there, they go through a biodigestive process, which is anaerobic. Based on this very difficult to control process, which is why being able to produce at scale is hard, we convert this waste to biogas. We do an upgrade process to then produce biomethane. And we also produce other fuels such as SAFs, which have been talked about before, and are going to replace fossil fuels for aviation, aside from other green ammonia, methanol, etc. So why do we talk about the responsible cycle? Because we also try to use it in other processes, other industrial processes that might need byproducts, which is why we have to talk about circular economy. During the anaerobic digestion process, aside from biomethane, we have a byproduct which is a biofertilizer very rich in macronutrients, and it goes back to the fields, which provide us with this waste. So it replaces the synthetic fertilizers that are often used. So we have a full cycle. The cycle is fully closed. We give back to those who provide the waste in the beginning of the process, and they therefore can produce better agricultural products with better waste and better input for the process to begin once again. So GEO is present in 4 areas of our country. We have 8 plans that look at operational processes, but also implementation. In terms of our capacities, we can go from 12,000 square meters of biomethane per day up to 72,000 per day. And this is the industrial scale. This is what makes it possible for us to be able to work with such a representative, such a strong sector as is the ceramic tile sector. Aside from the fact that it is a clean fuel and a clean process, when we look at the Brazilian energy mix, it's very diversified, as you know. It's always talked about at COPs. But when we talked about how biogas is used, it's still underused. We don't take much advantage of this fuel, which is a clean fuel, and that we now have is now available to be used. So showing you this graph, you can see very well that Brazil has huge potential from the waste that is generated by the sugar industry, by agribusiness. 75 billion cubic meters of biogas per year is generated, which is equivalent to 40% of the Brazilian consumption for electricity today, or 70% for diesel, 100% of what we consume in terms of natural gas. So we have capacity to replace fossil fuels, and we need to invest and take advantage of this potential. And of course, in this context, we look at biogas, but more specifically as biomethane, as a way to be as a protagonist for the energy transition, being able to replace fossil fuels and therefore being able to contribute to reducing the impact of climate change, as we're talking about during this COP. I reinforce that this project is relevant by bringing together 2 important hubs in Brazil, which contribute to emissions. And if we start replacing fossil fuels, we could have up to 2.6 million tons of CO2 per year not being emitted. So this is in line with our SDGs, and it puts Brazil as a protagonist, as a main player of the reductions that need to happen, as we're talking about here at COP. So these very important sectors of our industries, as is the sugarcane energy sector or the Brazilian ceramic sector, being able to replace and mitigate their greenhouse gas emissions, this is something that is very well in line with international standards. And many of these global standards are currently being reviewed here at COP. So This project encourages the circular economy with more sustainable practices in terms of agribusiness. It mitigates greenhouse emissions. It reinforces our national biofuels policy. It provides credibility for certificates and decarbonization credits. And of course, it's directly linked to the positive impacts we can have, both environmental, economic, and social, which is why this is so relevant. The technology being used is readily available for biofuel replacement. So we can explore biogas, we can explore biomethane, it is ready to go. And I'd like to close by saying that we need to look at what's taking place. Well, we are talking about Brazil, but this is relevant at the global level as well. So thank you very much. And let's open up for the debate. Last but not least, Flávio. We've been working together for decades. Can you hear me, everyone? Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Eduardo, Benjamin, Isabela. Thank you, Luciana, for moderating. Thank you, Apex, for allowing us to share a little bit of our experience with you here at COP and talk about a topic which is very important for us, which is to show the Brazilian model for production and use of bioenergy. And now I'm going to show you a positive view of sugarcane production in Brazil, which is something that we could scale up at the international level. So I represent the bioenergy cluster in Brazil. So it brings together the entire production chain. We have universities, technological parks, companies that provide the technology, fields, plants, logistics, all the way to marketing and distribution of ethanol, sugar, electric energy through the use of biomass. And now going straight to the topic that we are discussing in this panel, biogas. We're here to show COP two things, which in my opinion make the bioenergy sector in Brazil so successful, which is flexibility and diversification. In our case, using sugarcane. Today, the world produces 1.8, almost 2 billion tons of sugarcane. That's a lot of biomass, and 30% of the biomass is what we call the bagasse, the waste. It's always been used in Brazil to produce electric power. But if you remove Brazil from this equation, it's about 700 million tons, you still have 1 billion that's being produced all over the world, but it's only being used to produce sugar. So you have this plant that you can only crop once a year, harvest once a year, and you do not produce bioenergy with the waste. You know that this program started decades ago in Brazil, and we have experience and information we can share with the world about how to get this process going. At his opening speech, Lula said we had to stop with words and go straight to actions. Today, Brazil is looking for modern technology. So we're talking about green hydrogen, wind, solar, amongst others. Lots is being developed, hybrid cars, hydrogen cars. But people forget about this very abundant raw material. We have units ready to go all over Latin America, Africa, and Brazil and Asia. And if we use the model that Brazil back in 1965 established when we wanted to go away from oil and use a cleaner source of energy, which was the biomass, well, we had the plants ready because we were already producing sugar. So next to it, we built a distillery. We improved the chains. We use electricity to get it going, but we added this distillery to produce ethanol. Imagine doing that for 600 plants all over the world. With what we have in Brazil, that would be replacing, we can already replace 50% of fossil fuel consumption, gas. And it accounts for 16%. 16% of the ethanol we use in Brazil comes from sugar cane. So you can imagine how the potential this represents for the world. This technology is ready to go. And we're talking about energy. Sugar is the cheapest form of energy the human being can have access to. So let's try and look at ethanol production all over the world. We have about 103 billion of liters of ethanol being produced per year. The United States and Brazil being the biggest, Brazil with sugarcane, the United States with maize or corn. We are growing in terms of corn production as well, so we're trying to diversify the raw material we're using. And then we have a strategic partnership with India. India has evolved in ethanol use. It went from 3% to almost 20% in 2025, which is their goal. So it took them 5 years. Can you imagine how fast it is to scale up this type of production? India has just showed how easy it is to go from close to 0 to 20% in their gasoline, and all done locally with social development, economic development, and improving their country's position as a whole. So we have huge potential to spread this to produce not only ethanol, which is a source we need to be able to produce biogas, so increase ethanol production to increase biogas production, which means we're not competing with food. The more sugar we produce, the more ethanol we produce, the more electricity we produce, so it's just win-win all around. And the potential we have just for liquid fuels, if you look at oil consumption, we are producing very little bioenergy, very little liquid fuel, looking at all liquid fuels together. So look at the potential we have to produce energy with liquid fuels. So what's the advantage? Well, diversification is very important. With sugarcane, you're able to produce ethanol. We're going also to be producing second generation ethanol, where you increase ethanol production by 50% with the same amount of sugarcane. So a huge potential for growth. Just to give you a sense, in Brazil, there is one specific plant operating, but 4 being built. So we could have these second generation plants that would allow us to increase production by 50% without a single, without having to increase sugarcane production itself. Then we have, of course, bioelectricity, which we're looking at more and more. Now, as was mentioned, we started producing biogas, which enables us to reduce emissions. And you can increase not only bioelectricity, but you can include biomethane to be able to work with another industry, such as the ceramic tile industry, which believes that biomethane can be part of the solution for their construction sector. We are also producing pellets, more for export. Countries from Europe were interested in the pellets that are made out of bagasse. And finally, we're expanding our market. When we talk about SAFs, hydrogen, bunker fuel, or biobunker, we need to increase raw materials. For SAF, we need to work on biodiesel and ethanol to jet. Those are the 2 that we need to develop. So you're going to need raw material and you're going to need to increase production, but we're ready to produce all the SAFs that, or rather, are we ready to produce all the SAFs that the aviation industry needs? No, of course, we need to mature, we need to increase our production. But as soon as we're mature, then how can you get it done? How can you get SAFs? Well, you establish a market where you can have a mix between fossil fuels and biogas, biofuels, sorry. You produce more ethanol, you mix it with gasoline, and if in time hydrogen cars are available, if batteries evolve and you need less ethanol, all the ethanol will be available to use it for other purposes such as SAF, biobunker, bioplastics, etc. So just for SAF by 2050, you will need 450 billion liters of ethanol per year. And we already produce 100, just Brazil alone. So there's a huge market that could produce this energy. And if we look at all of the global south, as is often talked about, and have them produce bioenergy, the potential is of becoming a green Middle East in terms of production. 1 ton of sugarcane has more energy than a barrel of oil. We divided the cane in 3 parts, and the 3 parts put together have the same potential, more or less. And when you sum it all up, it's 1.2 compared to the to a barrel of oil. So the potential we have to scale up and to have a distillery installed and improve an equipment in the plant, you need a year to do that. But if we decide to do it today, then a year from now, we would be able to fuel with bioethanol all the developing countries with very little investment. Retrofitting equipment and investing in distillery is not very high investment. So to conclude, I wanted to show the world that technology is ready to go. It can be replicated, scaled. We can scale up. Raw material is available in more than 100 countries, and we already have more than 600 plants which are ready to be adapted to be able to produce this energy. An energy we know well about. Ethanol isn't even zero emission, it's less than zero emission, so a huge advantage. And this is the message we have here at COP. 50 years of experience from Brazil, and sometimes we try and look for difficult solutions, but we forget about the simplest solutions that are already there, already tested. Thank you.
Bom, começando as perguntas, vou começar pelo Eduardo, mas...
Let's go for the Q&A session. In the current context, how can Brazil differentiate itself in the production of biofuels? I think Brazil has an important competitive advantage. As Flávio mentioned, we have biomass from animal waste. And Brazil usually looks for new technologies. We have a great variety, and I believe that we are able to gather different technology, different diverse research, and we are able to have biogas, biomethane, biofuel for aviation, the green hydrogen. And we have the sectors that can help the reindustrialization of our country and looking for new sources of renewable energy, wind power, solar power, clean sources for the production of energy. So through biogas, we also can rely on the environmental component because this is an environmental service. To use a waste, to use something that would actually pollute, and we turn this into energy and we produce from waste, and then we can have electric power that can be used for transport and other types of activities. So Brazil has this opportunity, which is the diversity that we have and the possibility that we have to produce new energies contributing to the decarbonization and to raise international investment to tap into this potential. We have ceramic, as it has been showcased, sugarcane, animal waste in Paraná. In the northeastern area, we also have other possibilities of reuse. And we can add value to this product. So if we can take advantage of all these possibilities this way, we're going to have a greater value added to our products, and we will have a different position in the international market, because rather than being an exporter of raw material, we can have processed materials being exported. So we can reindustrialize Brazil, and this reindustrialization means a green industrialization with the use of biomass and the contribution to the energy transition. Thank you. Benjamin. Transport impacts a lot carbon emissions. So we are the third producer of ceramics in the world. If I understand very well, how do you fight against this activity of carbon dioxide emission? Well, the decarbonization has a very hard impact if we replace diesel with natural gas for heavy vehicles, and in the future, the biomethane. This can have a great impact. And as I mentioned, in the region of São Paulo, we have the transport of 2 million trucks that transport raw material for the plants. And these vehicles are fueled with diesel nowadays. And we have two initiatives. One is using trucks that have been manufactured with natural gas engine, but also we are replacing the engine of trucks that have combustion engines. And we are doing this in our own fleet, but also third-party fleets. And in both cases, both when it comes to new trucks and the ones where the engines are being replaced, in the next days and months, we will have these vehicles operating in the field, so we can test their performance in terms of energy potential and also the decarbonization potential. Additionally, we are looking for funding that can enable these initiatives of replacement of the fleet. This is very important for us, and our concern does not stop at the replacement of engines, but also supporting the demand of our factories with greener solutions. So at Itaipu, in thinking about the ecosystem you have, how can you leverage technological assets that contribute to energy transition? Eduardo, if it's Itaipu, I think Eduardo should take the floor. Would you like to talk about it? Because I can make my presentation later on. We have some projects in the context of the ecosystem. Itaipu has launched the program Itaipu Plus Energy, which aims at sharing knowledge for different regions. So we are going to assist over 430 cities in the southern area of Brazil through this program Energy Plus Itaipu that has an environmental concern, and we will distribute mini biodigesters. So the idea is to make them popular because we want children to learn about these technologies and this concern so we can enlarge the scope of our operation. This is a technology in place, but this is not popular yet, not very known. So we are working very hard to disseminate information so that we can educate the population since young age so that we can raise awareness and we can involve people. So on the top of environmental responsibility, we are also trying to multiply sources of energy. We have solar power sources, wind power, etc. So our ecosystem intends to reach the society and change habits so that we can have a paradigm shift, improving the environment and contributing to the energy transition while assisting the population, not only companies. Thank you very much, Flávia. So for the how can we improve the production sector as a whole in the global south? Well, we have technology, raw material, we have the plants, we just lack political will and public policy. We need public policy and political will. These are essential because they are the very foundation that will trigger investment. Public policies are essential, and we have to say so. The largest source of energy today is wood, timber. In Africa, for instance, people cook with wood, and this is very negative for people's health. This is devastating. So I believe that we can have a social policy approach to environmental issues because when you replace wood with ethanol, this is much safer and much better for health. We are here at the COP to foster public policy, to defend public policy so you can produce bioenergy for the entire world, but we are lacking goodwill, political will, and as our President Lula said, we have to start concrete actions, no more empty speeches. We need to get started and we need to ramp up the production worldwide of biogas, biofuel. So if we have public policies, we will be on the right track, and Brazil has been working very hard in this sense. We have Renova Bio, which is an amazing program that produces decarbonization, and we have metrics that allow us to track every type of plant and every type of sector. So we are able to certify that a given sector is actually entailing decarbonization. This can be a methodology adopted worldwide, and I believe that biomethane is part of the solution. Yes. How do GBO see the scalability? In terms of scaling up, we have to combine technology and innovation. And in this sense, we are a reference model in Brazil for sustainable energies. As for the energy transition process and the global context where these words become increasingly important, transition and energy, as it has been mentioned before, Brazil can play a leading role in this area because we are able to add value to waste by converting this waste into something that has value added. So waste can become sustainable energy bioproducts, which is the case of biofertilizers, which translates into competitiveness with fossil fuels. And if we think about scaling up projects, if we think about a permanent production of biogas and biomethane, we have to put this in the center of the energy transition agenda, every agenda aiming at reducing the emission of greenhouse gases. And again, Brazil can have an important role to play in the global stage because we can leverage the natural sources that we have to produce clean energy, and they can and should be used. Thank you. Now, Benjamin and Flávio, we see a partnership between both sectors. Can you please tell us about the background of this partnership between your sectors? It was quite easy. A phone call at the beginning, November 2 years ago. A friend of mine who was sitting over there, his name is Mauricio Borges, and said, Flávio, we have a problem. We need to carry out energy transition, decarbonize the ceramic tile industry, and do you have a solution? And then it all started. Talks began. We mapped the sector. They mapped their needs in terms of energy transition, and we were able to see that gas produced out of sugarcane could be part of the solution, if not the solution. Nowadays, São Paulo accounts for more than 50% of sugarcane production in Brazil. The pipeline is well distributed in the state of São Paulo. We had a positive experience in ramping up biogas production because, when it comes to commodities, the volume matters. So we mapped the sector. We met with Jill, who is sitting over there as well. And we realized we had this possibility. So at the beginning, we thought about the replacement, the substitution. So I did this kind of draft study. And I said, Leo, I think you will be able to replace 50% of your natural gas by 2030. He said, are you sure? I said, no, I'm not, but let's try. I'm kidding. I was very confident. I knew we were able to do it. And now, as Benjamin mentioned, we are going to work with the replacement of diesel. So we had two important clusters that are partners of Apex, aiming at internal supply, but also export. So it's great to join our efforts to put our strengths together in favor of these initiatives that is very important for Brazil. So I think that putting both clusters together, aiming at the same solution is very positive. And in less than 1 year, we are already reaping the benefits of this initiative that is very concrete now. And this is the result of this partnership between all the partners here present. And also I see Eduardo, who is here in the audience. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the generosity. And friendship and cooperation are key for the success of our common objective, which is decarbonization and the improvement of livelihood. Thank you. Eduardo, I have one more question for you. One of the challenges that we have in the ceramic tile industry is that we run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We operate non-stop, and finding a replacement for the fuel in place is no easy task. So indeed, when we were confident that it was possible to do it, we had the availability of the raw material, including in the period between harvests. When we knew we could do it, it was excellent. We seized the opportunity in a very easy manner. As you know, the ceramic industry is this number 2 consumer of energy in Brazil. So it was no easy task. And the state of São Paulo, which is where we begin this journey, has a reasonable number of companies. So a huge possibility to supply the sector with this energy. So the possibility existed, we identified it, we looked for a partnership to enable the transition. In the ceramic coating industry, we have a competitive sector that is concerned with decarbonization. We have the greener ceramic commodity as compared to international competitors. We produce with less water, less gas, per square meter of ceramics produced. So from the moment we replace fossil fuels with renewable fuel, well, then I believe that the decarbonization will open up new markets. So we can have a greater access to other markets. So on the top of an environmental gain in Brazil, we can also create more jobs and revenues for our regions. Thank you. We have several projects in the technological park. So how can we get to know more about them? How can we invest? Where can we have info? I'm a bit stressed, so I forgot to mention the carry code and to thank everyone. But at the end of my presentation, there is a carry code, so you can scan the carry code and have access to our information. But we also have some leaflets we're gonna give to you, or my LinkedIn, Eduardo de Miranda, or you can also contact the Technological Park and we can discuss arrangements, partnerships, and common developments. And before concluding, do you have a question in the audience? Okay. So now, Flávio, do you have a question?
São só algumas considerações, de forma muito sucinta. Alexandre, do Parque Tecnológico Itaipu também.
Alexandre from Itaipu Technological Park. I mean, she mentioned about green ammonia, and we know that according to Global Convention, green hydrogen is only green through hydrolysis and with solar or wind energy sources. We have a hydrogen plant for 10 years in our technological park, and we use both wind and solar sources of energy. We have renewable energy, but this is a convention. When it comes to green ammonia, the NH3, and we have the ammonia from the biomethane, I believe it can be replicated because you carry out carbon capture, right? We use carbon dioxide that we capture and store for food production, sodium bicarbonate, for instance. That's my question, indeed. I think that together with public bodies, the federal government, we can change this hydrogen convention. Why not include biomethane for green hydrogen? Because the biomethane presupposes the carbon capture. So if we can absorb more carbon dioxide, why not consider that we can produce green hydrogen with biomethane? I think this would be quite important. And we have this possibility in Brazil. We can be leaders in the green transition and energy transition. You have 60s with very small sized populations, but with huge numbers of swine production, for instance. So why not use the methane? Why not using the animal waste in this type of production? We can put all together and try to leverage this potential. Thank you.
Mais alguma pergunta?
One more question.
Flávio, passar para você para as palavras finais.
Flávio, please, your final remarks. Well, my final words are thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to share our experience. And once again, I would like to say that new technologies are very welcome, but we also need to use what we have already. And I agree that Itaipu must showcase that hydrogen made of bioethanol is green indeed. The hydrogen produced out of ethanol is very positive for the production chain because if you can provide safety to the transportation of hydrogen as well. We use a fuel made out of sugarcane. So for us, it is green. So there are policy arrangements and there are conventions that are imposed on the industry. But I think this is because some are jealous of us, because they see the Global South, the potential that we have for the production of bioenergy. And you know, the world is moved by energy. The world is fueled by energy. It is food plus fuel. You cannot live without energy. I mean, air conditioning, tablets, banking system. I mean, we cannot figure a world without energy. The world would be paralyzed. A surgeon would not be able to have surgery operations. I mean, the world needs energy and renewable energy, and we have to change the conventions, get together in the global south, show that we can produce fuel out of green sources, and we can try and influence the existing norms and change when necessary. Thank you very much, everyone. And now, please, Benjamin. Well, again, what an honor to be here with you, to hear from you, to hear from Itaipu, and once again, hear from Flávio, from Isabela, and Gel's projects and works. So once again, we are very confident in the partnership we entered into, and I'm very confident that together we can find new pathways and alternatives for such an important supply. The energy transition is fundamental and very important for the ceramic tile industry in Brazil because we can have a lower carbon footprint and a production that is more resilient and more efficient. So this is a very important moment to change paradigms and to change the partnerships between public and private sectors, because here we are discussing alternatives because we have a lot of potential to leverage. There is room for development because we have some norms, some conventions that can actually hamper partnerships. And for us, it's important to contribute to the economic, environmental, and social development of our region. So it is essential for us to be connected with this agenda, and we really needed to foster new technologies and contribute to these investments. Isabela, thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity and for sharing important information. Happy to be here with Benjamin Flávio. Happy to hear from Itaipu. As my colleagues mentioned, we needed to have partnership between the private and the public sectors. We needed to give visibility to the potential, to the energy potential that we have in Brazil. We also needed to showcase biomethane. And I would like to conclude by thanking Alessandro, a visionary, the CEO of our institution, GEL. He's the one who had the initial idea to scale up biogas production. And today we see more and more the use and the usability of the biofuel. Thank you. Eduardo, thank you. It was a pleasure to be part of this panel on behalf of Itaipu, and I'd like to thank you for being here. Also, Enilberry, Silvana, Lígia, the team of Itaipu, and Itaipu Technological Park produces clean energy, but we also invest in energy transition in the environment. So on the top of producing clean energy, we are also concerned with the green transition. So we have different types of investments and cases. And for a long time, looking for the construction of a better world where we can leverage all the potential given by the decarbonization movement. Well, thank you very much. We are very proud to see how investment in technology and the cooperation between sectors can put Brazil in a better position to leverage its potential and to contribute to the energy transition. We can see the potential, and we need to scale up this initiative. And most certainly, with better technology, we can have a greater technology, better solutions, and solutions that will be a reference for the Global South. So thank you very much. Have a good day, and please visit our website. We will have panels until 11 December. Good afternoon, everyone. Have a nice day.